Now it's there. What's
There it
happening,
is.
everybody? It's time for another MLB Live Before Lock. Myself, Eric Lindquist, breaking down our favorite pitchers for the slate, our favorite stacks, giving out some dong picks, and answering any questions you guys have in the interim. So do us a favor as you come in here, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hope you guys are having a nice day. We got a 10-game slate to be talking about for tonight. And other than that, yeah, drop any questions you guys have into the YouTube chat. Throw them into Discord. If you are a Stokastic sub, hit me up in the Discord channel so I can see any questions you guys have while we're doing the show. Eric, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Got a little Peloton in this afternoon because there was like this weird gap today. Normally on Wednesdays, you have baseball going throughout the day and there aren't any like gaps whatsoever. We had the 3 games. One went nuclear and had some really good bets, but otherwise was kind of just throwing some stuff around and getting some bets together. And yeah, got a little workout in because there's no baseball going on from like 12:30 until now. So yeah, I'm ready to rock. How about you?
Yeah, I don't have a ton of bets I've placed today, but I've got some, and the ones that I have placed have gone well so far. Early bets. I just pulled up my bet tracking. I'm 5-1 on bets on the day. So, small sample size, not that much.
I'm 4-0. No big deal. No big
deal. All right,
deal.
there we go. So we're combined to be 9-1 for today. Nothing to complain about that at all. My biggest bet of the day in my bankroll thread cash, that was Cal Quantrill under 4.5 strikeouts, taking on the lowly Colorado Rockies offense.
Why didn't I play that? That was so dumb. It's not always it's the bets that you don't play that bother you the most sometimes. And I watched that game like, why the fuck did I not short Cal Quantrill? I hate him. 4.5 is a huge number.
It is a pretty sizable number for Cal Quantrill. Is at the top of the board in Portfolio EV earlier today. So that's how it ended up in my thread. Cashed pretty easily. Also always nice when the FanDuel bets cash because FanDuel, if you have restricted accounts, they let you bet quite a bit more than some of the other sites. Well, basically than all of the other sites. So it was good to see that bet cash earlier today. And now we're on to the night slate and trying to figure out what it is we want to be targeting for here. Michael Harmon says he just bought the Sims. He wants to know, can we give him some tips on how to utilize these the best? Let me send over to you a video.
Pop up video.
Because can't cater just the entire show to your question here, but luckily I've already put content on the YouTube channel up for that. So Michael Harmon, check out the video that I just posted in there. Here's what you should do. Check out that video, and if you have any questions about it, then message me in Discord. Also, any sub that you sign up for at Stokastic does come with access to our Discord channel. So hop in there. Ask myself questions. You could ask other subs questions as well. You could ask, some of the devs questions. You could ask the data scientists, do the projections questions. But there you have it, Michael Harmon. If you have anything specific you want to ask, I could answer that. But just how to use them, it's a really broad question, and that's best answered by the video that I just sent you in there. So check that out and let me know if anything doesn't make sense or you have any questions after checking that out. Eric, any overarching thoughts on this slate before we get into the actual players and whatnot that we're targeting?
Yeah, we got some weird pitchers. We have 2 guys that are just kind of dominating in terms of top 2 percentage in the top pitchers tool. And I think kind of figuring out which one of the 2, or maybe a combo of the 2 of them, I'm kind of contemplating doing that in single entry based on what my stacks are going to be. But we got some weird strikeout props. Like Sawyer Gibson Long, I don't really like him that much, sitting at like 3.5 juice to the over. And Zebby Matthews has an infinity K prop. You've got Nick Pivetta, who, has been doing his thing, but like the Cade Povich one is just wild to me. And he is so cheap on this slate. And a 5.5 strikeout prop. I was on a show with Eitan, and Eitan's like, I like the over. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's Cade Povich. Why is this a real thing that's happening in our lives? But he's so cheap. He's in the best ballpark you can ask for for run prevention. And it makes a lot of sense, but like it opens up the entire board if he ends up panning out. But if he doesn't pan out, a lot of those top tier stacks could end up crashing and burning. And, you might have some Seattle leverage. I just think it's a really good MLB DFS slate.
I love when you get a chalk pitcher who's got a 5.29 ERA and a 6.02 expected ERA. That's something that I like quite a bit. So we'll talk about him when we get there. I get it. He's super cheap. Like there's not a better punt option than him, I don't think, but
no. But
it's a lot of ownership to a pitcher who's like objectively shitty.
Just actively shitty, not even objectively. Just he is. He's trash. Zach Morris is trash.
By the way, you are muted in playback per Ben Willie.
Liar. No,
Other
I'm not.
people in playback also saying you're muted, by the way.
I'm good now. Unmute Eric. I have been freed from Craig.
All right. Humble Parker, you are very close to getting banned from the channel because anytime somebody, because this is actually something that happens with playback. It's wonky. Sometimes it just mutes people. Also, Humble Parker, I would say 50% of our shows, you're in there and you say that we are muted before we even start. There is no conspiracy here. There's nothing that we are doing to drive traffic. Like 20 people watch the show on playback. Sometimes the playback doesn't work. It's not because we're stupid or anything like that. It's just sometimes the platform doesn't work. Any more complaints, especially before the shows start, that there's some conspiracy that we're trying to drive traffic. And by the way, it is helpful to just let us know, hey, you're muted as a heads up. But here's what you say. You say they do it on purpose, so we go to YouTube. They can't be that dumb that often. There's no conspiracy here. There's nothing that we are doing to drive the current 30 people who are watching this on playback over to YouTube. It just happens.
So what
Sometimes
happened
technology doesn't work.
No, what happened was my mic got unplugged. I just plugged it back in and it cut off the mic over there, but it went to my computer speakers. So people were hearing me on YouTube on the computer speakers, but it mutes you over on playback. Also, he said before all this began that I'm the man and I am him. He is that dude. And then it was followed up by, he can't be that dumb that often, which, man, 5 minutes really changes your opinion of a person. My Lord.
And by the way, I've spent enough time with Eric. He can be that dumb that often. Absolutely. I've been in meetings with him, other conversations. We're friends. We text. He's an absolute moron all the time, Humble Park. You have no clue what you're talking about. So, all right, we've settled that. Also, to your other point, you said that it's not just you. Yes, you are the only. It is helpful when somebody says we are muted. Saying there's some sort of grand conspiracy is ridiculous. You are the only one who does that. There's nobody else. There's nobody else. If you want to tell us we're muted, cool.
I was
all
muted
good.
too.
All good. Yeah. If you want to say Eric's stupid, cool. That's just a verified fact. You're just pointing out the obvious. Some of the other stuff, though, it's unnecessary. Let's talk about pitchers. I'm
going to look pretty in an hour and a half. It's fine.
Eric's getting a haircut. He's getting a haircut later.
Fluffy. I just got done washing it after I worked out, and I realized, holy mother of God. So I called my guy and I was like, "Hey, I got to get my hair cut." He's like, "All right." You could tell he was high already.
Humble Parker. He's uninteresting too. He's uninteresting as well. Let's add that to the list of things. But pitchers now.
Shut the fuck up and just get to the pitchers. Let's go. Let's talk about Cade Povich and why you want to talk about dumb people. Cade Povich chalk day. Let's go.
We've got 3 pay-up options on the slate. By the way, one of the other bizarre things, Nick Abel is $9K for no reason whatsoever.
Well, Nick Abel had 9 strikeouts in his debut.
Nick Abel is $9K. The other 2 pay-up options are Chris Sale and Nick Pivetta. I'm just going to say this right away. I'm no interest in Nick Abel for me. This is one of the most bizarrely expensively priced pitchers I've ever seen. Okay. For me,
easy. He's got good strikeout stuff, and he hasn't given up more than 4 hits in a AAA start since like April 12th. So he's good at that, and he's good at striking guys out. The main issue is that it's Toronto, and I guess the other one is he walks a shit ton of dudes. He walks a lot of guys at the AAA level, but he can get away with it. You don't always get away with that at the big league level, and one start against Pittsburgh does not a pitcher make. And I think that's the main thing to note with Nick Abel. I'm the same way. I'm playing 40 lineups. I'm not going to play him, but like, don't completely berate the young man. But yes, one of these things is not like the other at the top.
So for me, not going to be getting exposure to him. And then the other point of thought here is between Chris Sale and Nick Pivetta, both of them, tremendous strikeout upside. 2 of the better pitchers in the National League. Chris Sale, the reigning Cy Young, 48% ownership going to Chris Sale, 22% ownership going to Nick Pivetta. if you could only choose one of them to roster in a GPP when considering, projections and ownership, because you got Chris Sale, who's 2x the ownership, who's your preference between the two?
It depends on the format, because in single entry, my top pitcher is Nick Pivetta, and I'm going to play him in this lineup that's showing up number one for me in the Sims. And then I think in large field, I just like getting to Chris Sale a little bit more. So, I mean, it just kind of depends what you're trying to accomplish, I suppose. There's also pop-up storms that are in the Atlanta area. Obviously, Schmevin Schmoth, somebody that is over on X throwing stuff out from time to time. I go to the Google machine and I looked over Atlanta, and I go to Windfinder and I looked at Atlanta, and there's definitely some stuff where Arizona, Atlanta could have some issues, but it's really good pitching weather. My main thing is Arizona's pretty darn good offense. You saw that yesterday against some chalk, and we have some opportunities to get some leverage with Arizona bats if things pan out. Yesterday, you needed Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte to win anything. Two high 30 spots from both of them. I don't think you're getting that again, but I do think Chris Sale, despite being really, really good, you get Nick Pivetta in San Francisco. It's not as good of a strikeout matchup, but I still think Nick Pivetta in one lineup, if I'm going to play a chalkier stack, which I currently am in single entry, I kind of like that one deviation spot, but I am contemplating both of them too in single entry for what it's worth.
Yeah, so I think both of them are, all things considered, pretty good options. The difference, though, and I have comparable exposure to both of them, but comparable exposure to both of them means that I'm about even with the field on Chris Sale, and I'm 2x the field on Nick Pivetta. So with that in mind, if you're just choosing between the two of them, I prefer Nick Pivetta when you're getting less than half of the ownership. But ultimately, I think they are the two best pitching options on the slate. Despite all of the ownership going to Cade Povich, I still feel better about Pivetta and Sale as a cash game combination. There's enough ownership going to Povich where I guess you could consider him, but my preference would be Pivetta and Sale in cash. Between the two of them, if we're just talking cash games, Sale's the option over Pivetta because he is so much more popular that you don't want to run into a situation where you fade Chris Sale in cash. He goes out and scores 25, 30 fantasy points. It's like, oh, I'm drawing dead just because I didn't play Chris Sale. So just align yourself with the field in cash games on the ownership and play Sale. For tournaments, though, I do lean towards Pivetta. And a great matchup as well. He's pitching in San Francisco. Super pitcher-friendly ballpark. His strikeout stuff has been great this year. So in the Sims, I get to about 40% of both of them, and that's, 2x the field on Pivetta and slightly underweight to the field on Sale.
Yep, I see it the same way. I guess the main question, Cade Povich is more expensive than less expensive than both of them by a mile. Yeah. But I'm saying he's more popular than Nick Pivetta. Mm-hmm. I am a big proponent of Nick Pivetta over Cade Povich in cash. How about you?
Yeah. I wouldn't say a big proponent, but my preference is Pivetta over Povich, but not if somebody played Povich in cash, considering his ownership, I wouldn't say you're doing it wrong or anything like that.
I kind of would. I mean, you're talking about security over a long period, like a long sample size. And I think this would be a day that if you are playing cash every single day of the MLB season, which Greg and I are not, I would play more cash than normal today and hope that you ran into more Povich lineups. I would just say over any long-term sample size, if people are going to play Cade Povich purely because of his ownership and click that and then get to one or two other bats, the number of times where Nick Pivetta is going to just blow him out of the water in San Francisco is very, very high. And I would very much encourage you to maybe double how much cash you're playing today.
Clintwood83 wants to know, who do we like for pitchers on DraftKings, preference for cash and single entry? So yeah, actually my answer is the same for cash and single entry, Pivetta and Chris Sale as Povich. I have no interest in Povich in single entry GPPs, not because I don't think he has upside. I just think for the quality of pitcher he is, he's much too popular. So for cash games, you could consider him, but my preference for both GPP and cash is Pivetta and Sale as the pitching combo.
I got another mid-range option. I mean, yesterday, if it's not for the first inning, Tyler McGill wins me everything yesterday. Tyler McGill was lights out. If you watch that game, I watched it front to back, 2 through 6. Tyler McGill was unhittable, had 7 or 8 strikeouts, just a ridiculous outing from Tyler McGill. And I kind of feel the same way about Zebby Matthews, and I kind of feel the same way about Luis Ortiz, where they're just really, really, really unowned. Now, not as strongly as I felt about Tyler McGill, but it's still kind of like recognizing, hey, this guy's got 12% ownership with a 6.5K prop. This guy's sitting with a 5.5K prop, 5%. And then you just kind of compare it to, yeah, there's definitely risk of ruin for both of them. But, if anything happens to Pivetta or Sale, you're bypassing so much of the field. And, there's definitely a case to be made for them having the exact same amount of strikeout equity to Pivetta.
In the 8K range, is there anything that you're liking?
No.
Because there's a bunch of cheap pitchers I like that we could talk about. The 8K range, though, I've got a couple of lineups of Clark Schmidt. I've got a couple of lineups of Merrill Kelly, but it's nothing significant. It's under 10%. So to me, the 8K range, it's either like I'm going all the way up to the expensive guys or I'm punting.
Kyle Harrison, how many pitches do you think he can get to? I put him in for 90 as like the absolute tippy top of his range. He got to 80 last time out, 57 the start before that, but he's getting converted back from bullpen arm into strikeout arm. I expect the K rate to come down precipitously. It's against San Diego, but it is one of the best ballparks you could ever ask to get dropped into on a day in, day out basis. And for the sake of getting different, is it worth it at 5.5%? I don't know, but do you have any inkling on Kyle Harrison? He's the only guy I'm contemplating in the 8K range.
I liked him as a contrarian pitcher his last outing, but if I remember correctly, he was facing the Marlins, was $7,100 and 5% owned on that slate. So you got a scenario here. It kind of, I think in hindsight, goes to show why Kyle Harrison was a good guy to be earlier to rather than jumping on now, just because you had him $1,200 cheaper in a considerably better matchup with the same ownership. And now people are still playing him, at the same rate, but against the Padres. There's just too many other options I prefer on the slate to him. But I do think we're probably seeing 85 to 90 pitches.
Yeah. Okay. And I put 90 as like the tippy top of his range, and it made him interesting, but I think because of the 7K range, and I can make a case for like 2 or 3 guys, I brought up 2 of them already. I kind of find it unnecessary to try to make it a thing. I'm just going to kind of be landing at the upper range, the Pivetta Sales, and then the 7K range more than I am 8, 9K range. It's not really a thing for me.
Yeah, so we will we'll see. Nate taking some umbrage with us in the chat. He said we were very wrong on this, by the way. We didn't think that Burgett was going to work deep into the game. He ended up pitching 5 innings. At least he sucked for DFS, so it's not like the end of the world or anything like that. But yeah, we were wrong. We were wrong there. He ended up playing. He ended up going deeper into the game than we thought he was going to. So we were wrong on that. We were wrong on that.
Yeah.
Part.
One thing about that though, that it kind of made me not care is he was 5,500, I believe it was. And there's like no real strikeout equity with him whatsoever. Like there's no off speed pitch that he had that I was like remotely like, oh, he could walk into 5 or 6 strikeouts. If I felt that way, I would have maybe brought him up as a contrarian option, but I thought it was pretty unnecessary.
Did Jeffrey Springs get scratched? That's what somebody in chat is saying.
Don't tell me more scratches.
I already got
that. I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't either. They have an opener today. Maybe that's what he's referring to, but that's just
what they're doing.
That's just like a normal thing. Springs is not out though. Mm-hmm. I assume that's probably what he's talking about.
They're doing the same garbage that they did yesterday. Remember, Minnesota rolled out like a very, very righty heavy lineup, and I did the Brian Windhorst. Well, why would that be? And then Lopez ends up getting 5 innings of work and mows down like 8 or 10 of them. Didn't matter. Minnesota still smashed, but. Just at least wanted to point out yet again that I think we're getting the same shit today where it's all righties. And if it ends up being, Beto ended up showing up at the end of the game yesterday. He still could walk into a little bit of work today, but like, there's no way he can walk into like 50 or 60 pitches like we could have projected him for yesterday if we really wanted to, but we didn't.
Yeah. So we will, we'll see what ends up happening there, but like who knows how many innings Springs is going to pitch or anything like that. But big picture, like you shouldn't be rostering Springs anyway today. So, he's going to enter the game. There's just going to be somebody else who pitches the first inning. So let's go ahead and look at the punt options, because this is where I think shit gets really interesting on the slate. There are a ton of guys who I think are viable that are priced under 8K And for whatever reason, Cade Povich, like I get that Cade Povich at $5,700 is a viable punt option. I just don't understand why he's over 30% owned. It's so much ownership.
Since Aton said 7 strikeouts all to Cade Povich, I've been sitting just wondering what the meaning of life is. Like, what are we like? Cade Povich has a 5.5 strikeout prop. And the only reason that I'm not jamming and locking the under right now is that there's something in Aton Shander that said, Eric, don't do it. Now, he has a 23.5% K rate. Like, I get that. I get it. I understand that it's a great run creation spot, but we're talking, I mean, what are the numbers you brought up beforehand, Greg? Because I don't have FanGraphs pulled up right now. I simply go off of Savant when I'm doing this, and then my notes that I had from the night before. I do have some numbers on him from way down yonder where nobody goes, but I'm basically looking at an over 50% hard hit, 12-degree launch angle, 562 expected slugging, 13% barrel percentage, and an xFIP to the moon. So what do we do here?
Yeah, so he's in play. I just don't have nearly as much as what the field has because there's a lot of other guys who I think are better options who, they're a little bit more expensive, but like I love Zebby Matthews.
Me too.
Today. I've been playing a good amount of Zebby Matthews the last couple of slates. He showed up in lineups for me, and that's the same case again today. Zebby Matthews shows up in more lineups for me than Cade Povich does, and he's got about a third of the ownership. Sure, he's more expensive, but I think he has a lot more strikeout upside, and he's considerably better. By the way, also, the Athletics is an easier matchup, and the Seattle Mariners on top of it as well. So Cade Povich, you'd asked his numbers. He's got a 5.29 ERA, a 6.02 expected ERA, generates some strikeouts at 23.5%. Not all that long ago, he was one of the better pitching prospects in baseball. So there is talent there, but it just hasn't really quite panned out yet. Last year, he had a 5.2 ERA, 4.11 expected ERA, 4.79 FIP, whatever, not great numbers. And this year, he's been terrible with the 5.29 ERA and the 6.02 expected ERA. So as far as Cade Povich goes, is he in play at $5,700? Yes, absolutely. When I ran everything through the Sims, I got him in 16% of lineups. That's just way less than what the field has. I like being more so on the opposite side of it, getting to some of Povich being underweight, and I like stacking against him a good amount.
Yep, I am going to be doing the exact same thing here. I don't see a world where Zebby Matthews, he's been unlucky through 3 starts too. 412 BABIP, 2.48 xFIP. Like, he's been really, really good. Now, I think last slate we were doing a show together, and I talked about how they went from a really change-up approach, like a change-up heavy approach with him, to kind of removing that pitch out of his arsenal. And it still worked out really, really nicely for them because of how this slider is working. It's just been a ridiculous pitch. And one of my favorite bets today, getting to Zebby Matthews, talked about it on that same show with Aton, where he's talking about over on Cade Povich. I'm at least making it a case for Zebby Matthews over 34% K rate. Yes, he gives up fly ball contact. Yes, it's freaky, but with Butler leading off routinely instead of Wilson, with a lineup that we expect to have Soderstrom and the CJ Alexander and Denzel Clark and Logan Davidson, they called all these dudes up the bottom half of the lineup. They might be 40% strikeout guys going forward. That's basically throwing like 3 Michael Toglias into your lineup on a day in, day out basis. That is really huge upside for Zebby Matthews.
Yeah, Zebby Matthews, he is my favorite of all of the cheaper pitchers. And by the way, the A's offense, it's not like it's bad or anything like that, but it's just not quite as good as the Mariners. The Mariners project better going forward. The Mariners are 5th in baseball with a 110 WRC plus. So yeah, I think at the end of the season, which already they currently are, the Mariners are 5th in the MLB and WRC plus. The A's, once again, it's not terrible, but they're 8th in baseball and WRC plus. So yeah, I consider the Mariners offense better than the A's offense. So any other pitchers here that you were really liking? You and I are both on the same page with Zebby Matthews, Cade Povich in play, just don't like him quite as much as the field. What else are you liking as a punt option?
Yeah, let's work through Luis Ortiz because he looks oddly familiar to me. I mean, he's a more expensive Cade Povich from the right side, where you have a very, very obvious flaw for Luis Ortiz. He gives up crazy lefty power. Last year, I bet against him with lefties the entire way, front to back. It was crazy. He had a 1.69 home run per 9 against lefties in 2024, only a 0.50 home run per 9 to righties. So he had a pretty decent time against righties. Although, you look at some of the splits this season, righties are hitting 277 against him, 204 against lefties. So he's found ways of keeping it somewhat intact, but giving up 5 long balls to the left side. I think there's a lot of lefties, a lot of people I see with Trent Grisham slips and whomever else today, but I think the numbers are a little bit asinine, and a change of scenery I think has been good for Luis Ortiz getting into Cleveland as opposed to being in Pittsburgh. That's probably the way we're going to feel about Paul Skeens and Bubba Chandler in the near future. But I think there are lots of ways where Luis Ortiz find strikeouts against the Yankees. You've got Grisham, Ben Rice, Aaron Judge, all north of 22% strikeout rates. You get Jazz Chisholm, who, despite the fact that, yes, he's another potent lefty bat, has the highest strikeout rate on the team at 30.5%. Volpe, Austin Wells, DJ LeMahieu. We're only getting Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt, who are strikeout immune, and I'm still pissed at Paul Goldschmidt yesterday. Ends up getting Tanner Bybee 2 strikeouts on the way to 6 strikeouts, and I lose by the hook. But not that I'm bitter or anything. Just want to point out that Luis Ortiz has strikeout stuff. He's in a different environment where he's obviously figured out some ways to exist against lefties. And you have a very strikeout heavy New York Yankees lineup. Yes, he could get pulverized for 6 or 7. Wouldn't shock me at all. But if you're trying to win a GPP, you want to roll somebody out there who's 5% like Tyler McGill yesterday, putting up 20 for me, despite giving up 4 earned in the first inning with an error added into the mix there. Thank you so much for that one, guys. I love the idea of Luis Ortiz in tournaments. I currently have 20% of him.
Okay. I don't think do I have any lineups?
I think he's underprotected. You have such a volatile amount of it. Like if you play Zippy Matthews and you just play him in place of Luis Ortiz, I have no problem with that. But I want to point out that I do think that there's ways where I want to play both of them in tournament lineups together.
So there's a couple other pitchers I like. One of them Field's playing a little bit as well. Sawyer Gibson Long. This is basically exclusively because he's pitching against the White Sox. Yeah, I think that any cheap pitcher who's not all that popular against the White Sox, you can make a case for, especially when they're only 6K. That's pretty much the start and the end of it, though, is just the price tag and the matchup. The other one for me as well is Emerson Hancock, who is not good at all, but his numbers are almost exactly the same as Cade Povich's. He is just pitching at home and in an easier matchup against the Baltimore Orioles, and he is a fourth of the ownership. There's maybe a little bit of leverage to be had, too, if he picks up the win, because if you get the win as a pitcher is like $6,500, you're kind of already there from a value standpoint. So I like the opportunity Emerson Hancock has to take the win bonus away from Cade Povich. I just don't view Hancock or Povich as being, there's a little more strikeout upside in Povich. I get that he's cheaper, but once again, it's a much easier matchup for Emerson Hancock than it is for Cade Povich, and you're getting him for a fourth of the ownership. So I think that's a decent point of leverage as well, as going a little bit underweight to field on Povich, and I get to 15% of Emerson Hancock, which is about 2x the field there. So there's another cheap pitcher who's getting into some lineups.
I don't completely hate it. Emerson Hancock is not good by any means, and I think you know that, but he's 6,500. He's in Seattle. As you said, it kind of looks eerily similar. He's going to be facing a lot of good lefties on the Baltimore side, despite the fact that they're off to slow starts. Fire up a little bit, but yeah, I definitely like the 7K range a little bit more than going down here to the bottom of the cellar.
I just realized I have a massive fuck up, and I'm really annoyed now. So I didn't reserve lineups for this slate. The reason I didn't realize it is because I have lineups reserved for PGA tomorrow. So I saw I had reserved lineups, and I was like, oh. So like I just didn't realize I didn't reserve my MLB. I just went now to upload my MLB lineups, and there's nothing there. I was like, what? Why can I not find this?
Yeah, go play in the second iteration of the 121. That'll be fun for you. Yeah, don't do that. That's a bummer.
I really like this slate, which is what's annoying about it. I was all excited to stack Seattle with Pivetta and Sale as my pitchers in single entry, but
that's exactly what I'm doing in single entry right now.
If that's the build that ships everything, I'm going to be so annoyed now because I really think that's a great build.
I have 3 lineups in the 44. If the one that doesn't have I'm not playing Povich in any of the 3, but like if I end up taking it down, I'll send a cookie your way. How does that sound?
All right, let's see what we've got for questions before we move over to the FanDuel pitchers. Amy wants to know, can we give her some tiers choices? Absolutely. Let's pull up some DraftKings tiers and see what's standing there. So pulling that up, and then we got a super chat from Coley Poston. There's some questions in Discord as well. All right, tiers. All right, so tier 1. Do you have this pulled up, by the way, Eric?
Yeah, I do.
Tier 1, there's kind of only two guys that you got Judge and Ohtani. Those would be the two primary choices for me. I guess the only consideration I have outside of that is, can we stack the Yankees and other tiers? Let's see. No, we can't, but we could stack the Dodgers. So I'm going to go Ohtani in tier 1. Ohtani tier 1 for me. Who do you like in tier 2? I know who I like. It's Buxton for me.
Oh, you're going to literally make me because I'm just thinking about the stacks as I'm looking at it. Mm-hmm. I'm actually going to go Cal Raleigh.
Okay. Well, no, he's in a different tier, though.
I thought you said tier 2.
And Cal Raleigh's in tier 3.
He's in tier 2 for me. What am I looking at that's wrong? Oh, I have Thursday's tiers up. I have Thursdays. He's in tier 2 for Thursday. I literally went into tiers to be helpful. He's in Thursdays. All right. Now I'm in today's. There you go. Tier 2. Let's go with Corbin Carroll against Chris Sale. Nobody will do it. Oh, hello.
All right, I'm going to stick with Byron Buxton. I was just looking over the tiers to make sure I was looking at the right thing now.
Yeah, no, I was looking at Thursday's tiers because apparently there's a Seattle game at 12:40 tomorrow my time. That's kind of wild, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Tier 1, I'm going to go Ohtani. Tier 2, I'm going to go Carroll and get different. But yeah, Byron Buxton's the chalk.
Tier 3, I'm going to go with Teoscar Hernandez to correlate with Shohei Ohtani, but you have the opportunity to go to Cal Raleigh here.
That's what I'm going to do because, fuck me, right? Ketel Marte. No, we're going to go Marte. We're going to do the stack, the 1-2. We're going to go Carroll and Marte.
Tier 4. Unfortunately, Will Smith is in tier 4, but he's out of the lineup again today. So he's not going to be able to add to the Dodgers stack that I'm building out here. So instead, I'm going to go with Julio Rodriguez against Cade Povich.
Matt Olson.
All right. Tier 5. Tier 5, actually, this one's pretty easy for me. I'm going to go Corey Seager. A little bit buried because he averages the least fantasy points of anyone here, so he's listed all the way at the bottom. But he's the best hitter here. He's just recently coming back from injury.
And I'll go all the way to the top. My guy today, Manny Machado.
All right. And now finally, tier 6, where there's a different wrinkle here now. They've got pitchers in tier 6, and for some reason they've got all of the pitchers, almost all of the pitchers included here. So it's like, who do I want to watch? Do I want to roster Griffin Canning against the Dodgers? Or do I want to play Nick Pivetta or Chris Sale? So to me, it's Pivetta or Sale. I'm going to lean towards Pivetta just because based on the ownership projections we have, I assume that he's going to be far less popular than Chris Sale here. So I'm going to go with Pivetta.
Well, and based on the fact that I said Marte and Carroll as fun contrarian options, I should probably go Nick Pivetta if I had a guess.
All right, let's go ahead now and look at the next super chat we have, which is coming to us from Coley Poston. Coley Poston says, only playing one entry in the 3-1-80 contest on DK. Who are my pitchers? If I was playing in that contest, my pitcher would be Pivetta and Sale, and I'd be stacking the Mariners.
Correct.
That would be the build that I would go with.
But and you're never going to know
entirely what you asked. You just asked who the pitchers are. Pivetta and Sale for me. Can't
wait to play your lineup in my lineup. That'll be nice.
Go for it.
Go team.
Go for it. Go for it. And ship everything. I may have to be rooting against it though, because what could have been. I don't really feel that way. I'll be rooting for it to go off.
All right.
I'll be rooting for it to go off.
Thank you.
I'll just feel bummed at the end of the day.
Should have entered that tiers lineup, Greg.
Unfortunately, the only contest up for tiers is a 25-cent buy-in with like an $85 total prize pool.
Which is nice.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what we have from Discord. We answered the question from Clintwood83. Go Tigers asked us about stacks, which we'll be touching on in a second. And then 28 asked, is Povich in play on FanDuel for $2,000 more? So let's look at the FanDuel pitchers and see what it is that we're liking over there. So as far as ownership goes, you got Sale 30% owned. You got Povich 14% owned, which at $7,600, that's pretty crazy to me. A $7,600 Cade Povich is still chalk over on FanDuel. Yeah, Nick Pivetta is 6% owned. He's my favorite pitcher on FanDuel relative to ownership by a pretty wide margin.
All I was going to bring up. I have no other notes. I would be playing a lot of Pivetta. I'd play a little Sale. I'd play 0 Povich. I'd play a little Zebby Matthews at 4.5%. And I think that's it. Like, I don't even think I want to roll out Luis Ortiz at 7,900. I'd just rather play 8,200 Zebby Matthews there. Like, there's just, I mean, that's like, FanDuel is so easy to figure out today.
Anything else you want to add about pitchers, or are we all set on pitching conversation?
I don't want to say this because I hate him more than anybody on planet Earth, but I do think the one pitcher we didn't talk about who I think is viable on this slate is Jose Berrios. Like, he's 8,100 on DK. I'm playing like 8% of him. I really don't care that much, but like Philadelphia, you know what you're getting into. There's a lot of guys who can hit the ball very, very far and make you look very, very stupid. But his ownership is 5%. He's got a 22.5% K rate. And you have Schwarber, you have Kepler, you have Real Muto, you have Marsh. Like, those are basically guys that you got to rack up a lot of strikeouts on. It's just one of those guys that, like, if you get littered into lineups a little bit, I'm all right with it. But like, I can't believe that I even said that, because normally you get Jose Berrios like 15% on a slate like this and you would just play 0% every time. But like, he's low enough owned where I think there's like viability to like playing a 3% Jose Berrios.
All right. I do have a bet on Jose Berrios. Was it under 5.5 strikeouts? Let's see.
Big number.
What's the number that I got on him? I'm pulling it up. It was in my thread. All right. So I have Jose Berrios today for under 4.5 strikeouts at plus 116. That's the bet I have on Jose Berrios for what it's worth. If anybody's looking for a bet. Something else I want to tell you guys about and why you should be taking advantage of our link join offer. We had one of the books that was part of the link joint pulled out today. Vivid Picks. I don't want to be a part of it anymore. So this is one of the reasons why, like, we're going to keep this going as long as we can, but we don't know, because it's not our decision, when books no longer want to participate in this. So any of the books that you guys see on screen here that you sign up for, 1 free month of a core sim single sport package of your choosing. So if you want to sign up for Profit X, you want to sign up for BetMGM, 1 free month of MLB. You can get a free month of MMA, PGA, whichever sport it is you choose. You could stack them as well. So if you want to sign up for 3 books, you can get yourself 3 free months of MLB. And of course, that also comes with access to our Discord channel. Get access to our sims, our player projections, our ownership projections. So like I said, we're going to keep this around for as long as we can, but it's also sometimes not in our decision whether books want to be a part of this or not. So we no longer have Vivid Picks as a part of the affiliate program here. But if you guys do want to sign up for any of the other books here on screen and take advantage of this before, because eventually books aren't going to want to participate. If we've already had a couple of books that have pulled out of this, which stands to reason in the future, all of them are going to pull out at some point. So take advantage of this before it goes away, because it really is a great offer. And, you know, it's just not going to be one that we're going to be able to keep around for forever. So take advantage of it while it is still here. And let's move on over to stacks, Eric. I think I've made myself pretty clear here. Single entry. I know what lineup I had built out I was playing until I realized I didn't have anything reserved. Now I better ship PGA this week. I better, because this is what made me think I had baseball lineups reserved when I looked at my upcoming lineups and had those sitting in there earlier. Eric, I've already said that if I'm playing one lineup today in single entry, I'm going towards the Seattle Mariners. That's the same for me, by the way, FanDuel and DraftKings. Povich is also fairly popular on FanDuel. For yourself, if you're playing one team for single entry, just realized I got logged out, who are you choosing?
Yeah, I think it would be the Seattle Mariners, but I've got 2 that I'm kind of floating back and forth. The other one is the New York Mets from yesterday, talking about them against Tony Gonsolin. Just feels like, obviously Gonsolin's not pulling the ownership, so you're not getting the ultimate leverage spot that you're getting against a 30% owned Cade Povich. But Tony Gonsolin is giving up a ton of barrels, 11.5% barrel percentage, 18-degree launch angle. It's not the best hitting weather in LA today, but 371 xWOBA is going to put base runners on. You get this combination of position winners, Alonso, Soto, Nimmo, Lindor, and then you get other pieces that kind of like mix and match as far as cheapies go. Starling Marte, Jeff McNeil. We'll see kind of how the lineup rolls out. Jared Young. But let me see. I had it in my sheet here because Mauricio did end up in the lineup again. This idiot cannot bat. I don't know what in the world he was doing at the plate yesterday, but like it was actually horrendous. You get Luis Torrens there in the 9-hole, who I think has been better than Alvarez just straight up so far this season, but that isn't here nor there. Brett Beatty in the 5-hole. Might have to end up betting that when it's all said and done. I kind of have a Brett Beatty thing. And then Jared Young, 2.7K. Sucks that he's at first base along with Alonso and you can only play one of them. But I really like the idea of getting to the Mets. But I'm with you. When it comes to leverage and it comes to this ridiculous 30% Cade Povich, I just don't see a way that you don't want to get to Cal Raleigh, a catcher, that you want to get to, Dylan Moore, who is going to be really low owned for a guy with as much upside as he's got in the 6-hole. Donovan Solano, Cole Young, one of the best stories in baseball, left on left today. Has the walk-off 3 days ago against my Twins and, getting rolled out today. But overall, it is a slate that's pretty open for offense outside of my Minnesota Twins, where they're going to be mega, mega, mega chalk today yet again, and probably going to have to find a way to try to get away from it again.
You know what we have to start doing, by the way, when there's a pitcher like yesterday with Kershaw that we think is just like, on the decline or just somebody we think is gettable? We should be betting over team totals for the first 5 innings. I was looking at the number, but just didn't pull the trigger on it. The Mets over 2.5 runs for the first 5 innings, like plus 140 yesterday. That's what we should have bet on that. I'm just like banking that for later when there's a actually, let's do this. What is Seattle Mariners? What is their team total for the first 5 innings? I'm checking that right now.
Oh, it's got to be 2.5 again. It's got to be 2.5 because their team total was 3.5 for the game, but it was major juice to the over earlier. I've been dabbling. So yesterday was the first team total bet that I've had all season long. I had the over 3.5 for Kansas City. I thought it was the most broken line I've ever seen, and they put up 10. So that was useful. But yeah, I started running team total lines for the first time on this Sunday because I hadn't gotten down to like actually dealing with it. And it's one of those things over on OddsShopper where sometimes it gets caught up in the total runs. And so we've kind of like cleared it out, but I will find it right now. Seattle is 3.5 minus 142 on FanDuel for the game. Yeah. So I'm saying 2.5 has got to be what it is for first 6 or first 5. Like 2.5 with plus money attached to it.
Let's see. Baseball markets are a little hard to find because there's so many things listed. I'm pretty sure it's the innings. It's listed under innings on DraftKings. All right. So team total, first 5. I'm also good with betting I'm going to bet Mariners over 3.5 for the game.
Mm-hmm. There's a 4.5 plus 110, plus 120 actually over at Fliff too, for anybody listening offshore, or sorry, not even offshore, just sweepstakes. But yeah, minus 142 on FanDuel, 3.5 best available line right now.
All right. I'm betting
a low number against Cade Povich, and this Baltimore bullpen was supposed to be the linchpin of the organization. Let me tell you, Greg, hasn't gone well so far this season.
It is not. It has not. It looks like FanDuel only has the total run. I don't think they have first 5 innings total runs up right now. They do for both teams, but not for the individual teams. At least not that I could find right now.
Diamondbacks Braves delayed due to rain. That is very fortunate. I'm glad that it's happening now because you can roll out Chris Sale and not really think about it twice now.
Yeah, you have to think there's not that much risk of an in-game delay. They'll just wait out the rain and then play it when it stops.
Yep, good decision.
All right, I've got these bets placed now. So anyway, I've mentioned overall my favorite offense on the slate relative to the leverage, the ownership you're getting. It's the Seattle Mariners. We've also got a very chalk offense for the second day in a row, Eric. Your Minnesota Twins, 17% owned against Jeffrey Springs, expected to pitch the bulk of the innings. There is going to be an opener coming in ahead of him. What do you make of the Twins relative to their ownership today?
No, thank you. Today, no, thank you. I mean, this is brutal. You're going to go righty to lefty. Yesterday, you went righty to lefty. And, obviously we just stacked up the whole righty lineup. We kind of did the same thing again today, but it's a worse lineup with Bader in the 8-hole, Christian Vasquez in the 9-hole. We have no Brooks Lee, who I think is actually really good at baseball. So he's not in the lineup. Willie Castro's on another planet. He's going to be infinity percent owned at 3.2K. He's had 2 double dongs within 5 days. Yeah, that'll make you more popular on a slate. Ryan Jeffers, you can only play one of the 2 catchers, which is a little bit annoying, but Jeffers is going to pull all of the ownership DHing today. And then you get just these weird spots where I just don't know how popular they'll get. But after 10 runs yesterday and 25% ownership on Buxton and 26% ownership on Castro, I think a lot of the main guys are going to just be internally owned again. And the Sims have been just jamming them here. They jammed them yesterday. Boy, did that work out. But today, there's actually, I think, some more viable spots to potentially move around and get away from some of those pieces. And you're getting whereas yesterday, Lopez ate a lot of the innings, and then Beto, who's just terrible and has had a terrible year. I think you're just getting more like 1 inning here, 1 inning there, later down the line in this game. And that's just not good. That's just, Jeffrey Springs will pitch 3-4 innings, potentially maybe a little bit more if he's got it going, but it could turn into a real big bullpen fest. And that is never good when you have a chalk offense pulling massive ownership.
It's a lot of ownership going to them. I am getting to them in the Sims though. So
yeah,
they showed up a bunch in the Sims yesterday, and wasn't the ideal start for them, but they ended up crushing, put up 10 runs yesterday. You know, it was funny. I laughed at this in hindsight. There was only 2 hitters who ended up getting taken out of the game for pinch hitters for the Twins yesterday. Do you remember who they were?
Oh, one was, it wasn't Royce Lewis. It was, I was watching it. Who was it? It was, not Buxton, not Larnach.
It was Buxton and Correa.
Okay, at the end of the game,
because they were just winning, because they were just beating the shit out of the A's. So they ended up taking out which by the way, ultimately
the concussion brothers.
They had put up 10 runs, so it wasn't a big deal at that point. But it was funny. We were just kind of litigating who we thought was safe, who was a pinch hit risk yesterday, and ended up being that they won by so much that the only guys who came out were Correa and Buxton yesterday. Anyway, for today, I guess some of those same sorts of issues could remain. I do have a bet, by the way, on a Willie Castro plus 850 to homer today. That was a bet that I took for homer odds for tonight. For the Twins, I get they're really popular. Wouldn't play them in single entry because of all the ownership going there. But for large field GPPs, I think they're the best source of salary saving on the slate.
Willie Castro's 850. What book did you bet that at?
Fanatics.
Holy shit. I mean, that is just a fantastic number. I mean, I'm not even a big hot streaks guy. I mean, I've been doing shows here for 5 years. You've probably never heard me say, oh, he's so hot right now. Eric can't even remember the 26-man.
No, that's not true. You've texted me that many times. Many times you've texted me that. Those exact words.
I've never texted that.
Yeah, you go, oh, he's so hot. You say that all the time to me. Look how hot he is.
Yeah, but I'm usually trying to sleep with them. That's different.
I don't know why you're so into the Zac Efron plastic surgery, but hey, whatever. Different strokes for different folks.
I love very specific strokes.
I mean the pick, it's a little much. I don't need it every single night, but I get where you're coming from.
I appreciate you.
Yeah. So anyway, what I don't even remember what it was that we were touching on there. Do you remember?
hot streaks. Willie Castro plus
Oh,
850.
right.
Eric
By the way, one other thing related to it on Fanatics too. So Fanatics, because they
Right.
often have like pretty low limits on a lot of times the home run bets, like the max bet is like $10 or $12. Couple things though. One is they have it listed in two different places. They have 1+ homer and then also over under 0.5 homer. So you could bet it twice based on that. And then also, if you go back to Fanatics like an hour or two after placing the bets, they'll often let you rebet it. So at first you're like, oh, I can only bet $10 here. But all of a sudden the $10 is $20 if you're rebetting it. Then you come back an hour later and you get more on top of it. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, I got like $40 on something that's like plus 800 or whatever. And it's like a more meaningful amount of money. So there's like a little Fanatics hack to get a little bit of extra money down. That's a home run bet that I ended up placing for today. Minnesota Twins, super chalky. The other chalky team we have today, Eric, it is the Los Angeles Dodgers against Griffin Canning. They are going to be very expensive. They're also very popular. Here's why people are playing Kate Povich. It's not so that you could save salary with the Minnesota Twins, so that people could pay up for the Los Angeles Dodgers. So if you're rostering Povich and the Dodgers, just know that's what a lot of the field is doing. It is hard for me to get to the Dodgers at the same rate as the field if I'm undercutting Kate Povich.
Agreed.
So it's obviously a good spot for them against Griffin Canning. I also like Griffin Canning under 4.5 strikeouts. That was another bet from Portfolio EV. Ohtani, great one-off. Freeman, great one-off. Like there are guys to play as one-off.
I think Rushing's a great one-off too, for what it's worth. I think Dalton Rushing's going to just smack at the big league level. I almost bet him. I want a little bit better than plus 600, but Dalton Rushing is going to be very, very, very good. And it's pretty much all righties coming out of the Mets pen from what I remember. So I was going to double check that. That's a note that I have for afterwards, just to see, as I'm making bets throughout the night. It's hard to do everything at once in the world, but definitely looking at Dalton Rushing as an option for total bases, homer. The guy launches the baseball. It's beautiful to watch.
Yeah, I could get behind that as another one-off. But those are the chalk pieces on the slate. Twins really popular. Dodgers really popular. We've talked about liking the Mariners as a leverage team. Beyond that, though, Eric, there isn't all that much to see as far as ownership goes, because you got 11% ownership on the Dodgers, 17% ownership on the Twins. No other team is more than 7% owned. So what else is standing out to you as a potential stacking option?
I got a weird one tonight. I got a really, really weird one. There's one stack that I really like. And, if you watch Lindy's Leans Likes Locks, you probably heard about it. But anytime you get guys who are really good at avoiding strikeouts against strikeout pitchers that just give up hard contact, it's really appealing. And I don't think this is one that I really want to get to as a full stack. It's the worst ballpark ever. But I like San Diego against Kyle Harrison. This guy gives up hard contact, 61.8% hard hit. And that was as a bullpen arm. You're telling me you're getting a bullpen arm transitioning back to being a starter with a 475 expected slugging, 62% hard hit, and 15-degree launch angle. And I can get to an absolutely unowned Machado Tatis combination. Yeah, I'm going to do that a lot in life. And I do think you could combine, an Araz, you could combine a Jackson Merrill if you really wanted to. But specifically looking at Machado Tatis, I'm playing a lot of those two because they can win you out the position. And, their odds are a little bit shorter. I mean, I bet plus 600 last night, Manny Machado. It's down around plus 520 everywhere now. And then Tatis, I didn't really touch. He's kind of stayed around the same number, but I love him for DFS as an option to get different and get away from Ohtani and Judge and some of the other bigger boppers that are pulling a lot of ownership. Byron Buxton, obviously the most ownership of anybody there. They could be today's Arizona, where just two righties against a bad lefty who gives tons of hard contact, and neither of them are strikeout guys. Like, I just love this setup for those two specifically.
I like the Mets. I saw some people in chat saying like the Mets as well. I've been on the Mets all throughout this series. I like them against Dustin May. That one was just kind of meh. I liked them against Kershaw yesterday. That one went a little bit better. And then today again against Gonsolin. Gonsolin's struggled, not just this year, but he wasn't good last year either. He's got a 5.23 ERA, a 5.37 expected ERA. Last year, he had a 4.98 ERA and a 5.89 expected ERA. Here's something else, though, that I think is a talking point that is relevant to me that I don't think about as much as I should at times. What ended up happening in yesterday's Dodgers-Mets game? First off, it went to extra innings.
Yep.
Another thing that happened as well is because Kershaw pitched poorly, he didn't go all that deep into the game. They ended up getting, what was it, 4 and 2/3 innings. So he didn't even get 5 innings out of Kershaw. The Dodgers had to burn some of their higher leverage relievers in last night's game. And then also on top of it, like I said, the game went to overtime. So you got a bullpen. They had to use 1, 2, 3, 4. They had 5 relievers they had to pitch yesterday. I think this is a good spot for the Mets, not just because they're going up against a pretty weak starting pitcher, but then there's also a depleted bullpen that they're going to be facing. So this is one of these spots where, not this is the most likely outcome, but let's say that the Mets were up like 8-2 or something like that in the 9th inning. You could see a scenario where all of a sudden you're getting a position player pitcher, a little bit more likely to pitch in that kind of spot against the Mets. Not that I'm saying that, like, I think you rush to the Mets because they might get a position player pitching against them, but more so just the Dodgers pitchers are depleted at the moment. If the Mets get to Gonsolin early, I think the Dodgers just kind of punt the game from there. So I really like stacking the Mets.
I love that idea. I'm going to definitely be doing it. I'm uploading my lineups here now, so that'll be all nice and cushy and good to go. For what it's worth, LA, obviously very tapped into that market and this team out here as well. And one of the things to pay attention to always with the Dodgers is what is going on with Tanner Scott at this present moment, because it feels like every time you put on a Dodger game, all they do is talk about Tanner Scott struggling. Tanner Scott can't figure it out. Tanner Scott, the closer. Tanner Scott, this. Well, he's not going to even pitch today. He's pitched back-to-back. He hasn't pitched 3 games in a row, period. You're talking about Jack Dreyer potentially ending up being your closer today. Anthony Banda had 3 pitches yesterday, got brought in for 1 at bat. He did great, but Lou Trevino, Ryan Lotus, I mean, these guys are not all that good. And they've had guys like Vesia and Kasperius has been the best reliever in that pen all season long. That guy is ridiculous with that sweeper, but Alex Vesia is potentially actually going to be your closer. But yeah, it's a lot of lefties coming in there, but it's not looking good whatsoever. And now with Mark Vientos on 10-day IL, I don't think the pinch hit risk for like a Beatty even exists.
We got some questions to answer here. Well, just one. We've answered all the other ones, but we've got Sal wants to know, are there weather concerns for Sale? There were, but those kind of got alleviated when the game went into a rain delay, because there was some risk of the game potentially getting delayed midway through. But now that they're starting late, I think we should be pretty good to go there in terms of they just wait out the rain and then it should be clean to go beyond there. But I'll go and I'll look at the most recent Atlanta weather and make sure that nothing has changed all that much. And yeah, it's, I'm not going to say there's zero risk, but I feel better about the game starting late than if it was starting on time.
Otherwise, Greg's going to be really happy he didn't enter lineups with Chris Sale. I mean, honestly, it would be the most Greg Ehrenberg run good at life thing possible to just have that game get pushed to tomorrow. Like, that would be something you would do.
I mean, if you look at the rain, it's obviously it's raining now because they're starting in a rain delay, but it's a 50% chance of rain. And then a couple of hours from now, the chance of rain goes down to 20%. So, there's always the human element where you get humans making decisions and they might just decide to call the game. But at least per the weather report, it looks like as long as they just are patient enough to wait out, they should be good to go in a couple of hours. And if they've already delayed the game, like, why would they have not just canceled it if that's what if they weren't willing to wait out the rain ongoing right now? So, are there weather concerns? Like, I can't say that there's a 0% chance the game gets postponed, but I think it's fairly low. So I'm good with recommending Sale here. We've got Truffles says, assuming the weather cooperates, thoughts on a Rays stack versus Rocker. Kind of funny too, because we just got a super chat from Jeff Williams as well. And Jeff says, thoughts on a Tampa stack. So a couple of questions here about the Tampa Bay Rays. And we know Tampa Bay is going to be going up against Kumar Rocker. They're also at home in that super hitter-friendly ballpark. So, Eric, what do you want to be doing with the Tampa Bay Rays against Kumar Rocker?
I want to play some of them. I'm specifically just going to get to the main boppers, the guys that we know can do damage. I like Josh Lowe. I like Brandon Lau. I like Jonathan Aranda. Junior Camanero's on another planet. And I will be cheering so goddamn hard for Jake Mangum and Jose Caballero because for some reason they were like plus 1,400, plus 1,500 last night on Fliff. So I ended up firing both of them. Nothing like getting closing line value on something that closes at plus 900, but like, I don't know what to tell you. They were not good numbers initially. So have more betting interest just from that than I do anything from a crazy stack perspective there. But this is a AAA ballpark. This is still a good spot there. And Rocker has been off his rocker all season long. I don't know what to tell you other than like, there's just other spots that I think are more appealing, but feeding them in as like 2 and 3 mans, I really like that idea.
All right. So for me, as far as the Tampa Bay Rays go, it's not like my favorite stack on the slate or anything like that, but they're in play. Kumar Rocker, I still think he's ultra talented. It's just like, what are the odds of him actually reaching that ceiling? More than anything, just injuries, I think, are going to be a massive issue for him. When he's been on the field, he pitched pretty well last year, although once again, it was only 3 starts. This year, injuries have limited him to 5 starts, and when he's been out there, hasn't gone all that well. 8.1 ERA, 5.91 expected ERA. He's been lights out in the minors. He's actually made 4 minor league starts. Do you know how many runs he's allowed in 4 minor league starts?
Like 0?
It is 0. He's 0.0.
Yeah.
0 earned runs allowed in 4 minor league starts this year by Kumar Rocker. So we've got his raw stuff is good enough to where whenever he's pitching the minor leagues, he simply doesn't get touched. They just don't hit him in the minor leagues. But now what he needs is the big league reps. But it's really hard to build up those big league reps when you're constantly being built up. Then you get hurt, and then you have to go on the injured list, and then you come back. So it's like he's now 25 years old. This is the reason why, the Mets had drafted him, and they did a deeper look at his medicals and threw him back into the draft pool. Mm-hmm. Super good stuff, really talented. There was a point in time where he looked like one of the top pitching prospects in baseball when he was in college, and he was unhittable. But it's just so much inconsistency that it's kind of hard to rely on him. So, just because of that fact, I'm okay with taking shots on Tampa Bay against Kumar Rocker, and then also the park factors. But it's not my favorite stack on the slate or anything like that. Eric, any other final stacks you want to throw out? If not, we got home runs to do as well.
That stuff. Let's do that.
All right, guys, throw in your home run picks into chat so we could read them off because we're going to close out the show the way we normally do. Dong of the day. Eric, who are you picking to homer tonight?
Yeah, let's go to the ultimate leverage of all leverage. It's somebody who's treated me very well over the last few days. I've bet him 3 times this season. I'm 3-0 betting him. Last season, he was one of the... so 3 times... I got double dongs correct out of the 6 times that I actually bet them. I'm 0-for-1 this year for what it's worth, but unsustainable record. But Cal Raleigh is one of those dudes. And Cal Raleigh goes yard for me Friday, Saturday, Sunday. He really started this barrage from a betting perspective for me. And now I get ultimate leverage. Now he's much better in that ballpark when you get a righty on the mound and you can just pull it. They talked about that during the home run derby. I think that was actually last year with Adley Rutschman being the one lefty as a switch hitter where he could actually pull the ball there going up against all the righties. Didn't matter because he sucks. But I very much like Cal Raleigh as leverage against Cade Povich. Give me that big man. Let's go big Cal.
I'm going to go with Julio Rodriguez against Cade Povich today for my home run pick. And let's see what it is that we have coming into us from chat. I think Tom Olson picks Matt Olson every single day to homer, so that is going to be his pick. I can't imagine it has anything to do with the last name. BD is going with Juan Soto to homer twice. Wookie has got Pete Alonso to homer today. We've got Van Dam NYC going with Freddie Freeman. We've got James Perkins, Francisco Lindor. We've got B-Funk going with Max Muncy. 2 Max Muncies, but he's going with Max Muncy. We've got Casey Leatherwood going with Dylan Moore and Julio Rodriguez. Joseph Ramirez also going with Max Muncy. So Texas, Carlos Correa. We've got Harlock going with Bryce Harper. Malukar's got Spencer Torkelson. Blake Moore's got Brandon Nemo. We've got Benny Tingman going with Marcus Semien. Marvin H. has got Royce Lewis. I don't hate that. By the way, I think that's also, if I remember correctly, one of the other home run bets that I have on Fanatics today. I think I got a pretty good number on Royce Lewis earlier. I could be thinking of a different day though.
You could count. Good for you.
Io Kimbrough's got Cody Bellinger. We've got Eric Johnson going with Denzel Clark. We've got Jazz Chisholm from CPA Joe. We've got Cal Raleigh as well from Big Kev. We've got Juan Soto from Ryan Schnabel. Jake Berger from Andre B. Addison Barger from Barnaby O'Toole. Jose Ramirez for 2 homers from Patrick Maduke. Sheeman is the pick from Tango Hotel. Data Baller's Almanac has got 3 homers. Oh, this is aggressive. This always ends up happening. You get more into the picks. People will try to one-up each other. Paul Goldschmidt for 3 homers.
Okay.
He's got Gavin Sheets. Mitch Garver for 2 homers from Randy Hendrickson.
Okay.
AJT has got Spencer Torkelson. Slam Lancaster's got Brent Rooker. Steven Jones has got Teoscar Hernandez. And Malukar deleted a message after that, so I assume that he was also going to go Teoscar Hernandez.
Malukar's just confused. It's okay.
JT Realmuto from Nate. We've got lots of other ones. So that's the end of the show, though. So I'm not going to be able to read off quite all of them. But thank you guys for all the submissions. I think this was the most that we've had on a show so far today. But yeah, get those in. Get those ones in early so that we could read all of them off before we get into lock. If you haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Eric, any final thoughts here?
No, I'm going to go look pretty and get my hair cut because it is long and poofy. And I got to go get pretty, but hopefully nobody gets scratched between now and then. That would be an absolute disaster. But yeah, it's a 4:30 haircut. I saw baseball was going to be starting up, or the last wave at 4:40, but tons of bets still to come in the premium Discord. Got a lot to comb through. Got Lindy's to record tonight. My night's just getting going. So we'll see you guys there.
Have a good one, guys. We'll see you back here tomorrow.